welcome to Radio Sensation. I'm your host, Dan. And on this episode, we're going to be looking at the book Eiji Tsuburaya, Master of Monsters by August Ragone. And Tsuburaya is the guy behind the special effects of some of the greatest of all the Japanese fantasy and sci-fi films. And, August is a longtime fan, historian, and writer about the subject, and he has done a fantastic job. Some of my earliest, greatest memories in my childhood were watching Astro Boy and Ultraman on television. King Kong, the original 1933 movie, was absolutely my favorite thing of all when I was a kid. But believe me, Ultraman came in a very close second. And this is a great book. I'm just going to flip through it a little really quickly to give you an idea of how it looks. It was done by Chronicle Books, and it looks fantastic. Just great layout, great look to it. Some of these pictures are a little blurry, these behind the scenes pictures, probably because they're, blown up and what have you, but and they were just quick behind the scenes things, not really post studio stuff, but it's still great to see them. I mean, I like this. This is from War of the Gargantuans, one of the great, wacky, fun Japanese monster movies. And so there we go. Defending the Earth with Ultraman, Godzilla, and Friends in the Golden Age of Japanese Science Fiction Film. So, it starts off with, beyond the introduction, it goes into his early life. And, class pictures, military pictures. He did serve for the Japanese Army during World War II, but at home making propaganda movies using his special effects to convince the Japanese audience, the people who were watching these, the people on the Japanese home front, that the Japanese were doing much better with their war efforts than they really were. Which is crazy to think of. Here's some of that footage. And then it goes into his time after the war. And then we get to very early on here, we get into the Godzilla stuff. And this is what we're looking for. This is designing Godzilla, designing the suit. It shows some of the dinosaur things that influenced him. Rudolf Zellinger's artwork. Great stuff. And there's the Czech artists that just generally all those early dinosaur paleo artists were inspiration. Even though, of course, Godzilla comes out. The jaw on this type of Tyrannosaurus doesn't, it's not too far off of Godzilla. The thing about the Godzilla films is a lot of people look at them and these early suit films and their model cities, and they say, well, this doesn't look realistic at all. But it's not about creating an absolute realism. It's about creating a world, a believable world that doesn't necessarily have to be an absolute copy of our world. When the models are well done, um, it can have it can take a serious tone. The first Godzilla has a serious tone, and it carries it. The special effects in it are good enough, um, and it is realistic enough to carry the emotions, and that's pretty wild when you think about it. Um, and then as the movies went on, of course, they get sillier, but um, when they had the budgets for these movies, the model works were still incredible. These are incredible, huge, filling up a whole soundstage, basically, models, and they're just terrific to see, and you don't get that as the budgets disappear. They start making less and less money, and they start shooting more for a kids audience. But these earlier films are so great. I love this. I love when you get to see the guys hooking up the harness to the suit, and you can really see how the size they were made at. The Mysterians, that's another good model one. When I was a kid, I was really sad because I thought there was going to be giant monsters in this too, and there aren't. But it's got some spectacle, and it's fun. Talks about a lot about the other people who were involved in the creative process of these movies and stuff. Look at the size of this model battleship for this scene. Oh, and I do like when they just have these, ordinary people walking down these streets. A lot of times the toy cars are the real giveaways. The car and tank models are a little wonky on some of these, but still good. Man, I liked the Godzilla movies, but when I saw the Japanese King Kong, I almost swore off of them because King Kong's my favorite. And at first, I was so insulted and angry by how bad he looked. In King Kong vs. Godzilla, I was really unhappy. I sense, after a while, I made peace with it, and I learned to enjoy the movie for what it was. But boy, that is still one of the biggest letdowns. Is the King Kong suits. Yeah, they are talking about some other ones. The Attack of the Mushroom People. Matango. The real title was Matango. I think I used to play under the title Attack of the Mushroom People on TV though. Or maybe I just imagined that. Maybe that's some Mandela effect kind of thing. Godzilla vs. the Thing. Here's the thing about Godzilla vs. the Thing. The ad in the newspaper, I had seen Mothra, wasn't crazy about Mothra. Yeah, I mean, there were decent things in it, but overall, if you see the ads that they had for the movies for Godzilla vs. the Thing, it looks like Godzilla is going to be fighting some kind of who knows what kind of creature in it. It's really hard to make out what it is. And I think they did that on purpose because they knew the image of the moth or even the caterpillars was not that strong. So when I realized it was Mothra, I was a little disappointed. But again, once you get, when I was a kid, I was easily disappointed, and I would kind of like hold a grudge for a little while about something, but then I would kind of like go, okay, I would just learn to accept it. Yeah, so that's the Godzilla that was in the ad, but when you see the other, the newspaper ad looked different than that. I guess they doesn't have a picture of it in here. And now we're going to some of the TV shows that he did the monsters for, the special effects for. Like this is Ultra Q, which was the predecessor to Ultraman. Um, and some of the weird monsters in it. The monster mashups there. I mean, the caterpillar is slightly more interesting to me than the Mothra itself, but still not great. King Ghidorah was, I did like that monster. Rodan was he was just okay. It doesn't look that special to me. More monsters for TV shows. More things about who he collaborated with. I don't mean to be dismissive of it. I read the whole thing when it first came out. I haven't read it in a long time. My memory about this is not the greatest, but it's good stuff. It's just that, I want to show you the visual stuff. And here comes the creation of Ultraman. Dun, 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 dun. Man, loved that as a kid. Loved it. I was a big fan of Spider-Man comics and Fantastic Four comics. And so I liked superheroes. Here comes Ultraman, superhero, and he fights the kind of monsters I like to see in movies. All good stuff. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, and there's where they repurposed the Godzilla suit to save some money and use an Ultraman. They added a giant fin behind his head, and then Ultraman rips it off. Ultraman has some really great monsters in it, some really imaginative monsters that, what's funny is that now, they cut some violence out, for the US TV showings. I didn't know, when I was a kid, we didn't have a color TV till, in the early 70s. So I didn't realize Ultraman was in color. Thought it was black and white. Yeah. And here's the War of the Gargantuans. Again, a crazy fun movie with the monster from Frankenstein Conquers the World is somehow related to these. Two creatures are spawned from parts of that monster. And one of them's good and one of them's evil. And they have to duke it out. Here's one of this one came over here as, I think it was, what did they call this? They're calling it, the translated name is Big Duel in the South Seas. But I think it came over here as Godzilla versus the Sea Monster or something like that. Not one of his greatest achievements. Now here's more of the Ultramans, because there's been a ton of them. So like I said, great info talking about why they made some of the decisions, because there was monetary, the money made some of the decisions about how some of these things were made. And it's interesting to hear what they would have liked to have done and what they were actually able to accomplish. And I think it's terrific. I mean, the sets and everything, the model work, I think it all looks really well. It really holds up for me. in a fun kind of way. It's funny because it's younger kids who you think would be less, critical of stuff, who actually are so used to CGI, they're not into it that much. And this is collecting toys based on his monsters and creations. And they're pretty cool. I don't have room to buy toys. I don't have room or money to buy these toys, but I do think they're very, very cool, a lot of them. Okay, so that's a quick look at that. Fantastic book. The hardback was out of print for a long time. The paperback might be out of print right now. I'm not sure, but I definitely think it's one to add to your collection if you're a fan of the Japanese films. I think it's an above average book. I think it's a great book. So keep an eye out for it.